Welcome along to Obsession Engineering. My 1100 Tuono's on the bench because in the last year it hasn't had quite as much TLC as it should have done, and it might have got a little advisory on its MOT for a bit of play in the shock link. And so what I'm going to do this evening is I'm going to take the shock link out of the bike, take it apart, put some new bearings in it, nice smear of grease everywhere, and then hopefully it'll feel like it's being looked after and will treat me well for the next year ahead. So, without further ado, I better go and get a stand for it because it's no good sitting just like this. I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but I suspect you probably can see that. That is quite a lot of play. If I'm honest, for sort of, well, most of the last year as I've ridden the bike, I've thought to myself, it's got this slight movement to it, which I thought might be the shock beginning to go off because the oil in it will be, well, by now 24,000 miles old. And it has had a relatively, how should we say it, sporting life. And the shock sits right next to the exhaust pipe, so it gets really quite hot. But I suspect this is as much of the problem. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the, fix the linkage problem. A sensible man, of course, would refresh the shock at the same time because I have a workshop full of things for doing that. There are two reasons I'm not doing that. The first one is, well, frankly, it's already 6 o'clock in the evening and I don't want to be here really late. And secondly, it turns out I don't have a service kit for one of those in stock with new seals and bushes and stuff. So we're being very scientific and doing the linkage first and seeing if that fixes the problem. See, it was all planned, really. So, I am still taking the back wheel out because it will make life easier because I'll be able to get into the shock linkage a bit easier. It is a while since the back wheel's been out of this, to be fair to it. But I always do grease my shaft because a lubricated shaft comes out much easier, and we like things going in and out easily. All motorbike manufacturers do the occasional thing a bit strange, and Aprilia are certainly not unknown for the odd unusual decision. They are very practical with some stuff. For example, the nut is a different size to the head of the bolt. That makes sense because you can have one spanner set and take the bike apart because you're not using the same spanner in two places. But they are the only manufacturers, as far as I can work out, who use a 15mm headed nut. The 13mm for the bolt is kind of industry standard. The 15mm is a bit random. Before dropping a shock link out, it's not a bad idea to at least have a bit of a look as to which way round everything goes, because the actual link itself, it is quite possible on quite a lot of bikes to get the link like upside down or the wrong way round. The Aprilia one has an arrow there. What the arrow points to, of course, is a bit of a mystery, but as long as I know that's on the top rail pointing forwards, we know we're going to get the link in basically the right place. The next thing, of course, we have is the fact that this bolt here would hit the exhaust. But if we take out the top one here, the one in the shock, and this one that goes to the frame, which slides out that way and misses everything, we can take these plates off and the actual like dog bone link at the same time, and then we can take that last bolt out. So it is quite sensible that we can get to everything without having to take exhaust pipes off and stuff, which is not always the case. But luckily, Aprilia have done us a bit of a favour there. Which means the next thing I need to do is put my hand up there, push one of the linkage bolts out, drop that on the floor. At this point, actually, I'm going to put the paddock stand back in the swinging arm because it stops it all falling into a big pile on the floor. Then I'm going to do the one next that goes through the bottom of the link. So push that one out of that side, and I shall leave that bolt on that side so I know which way round they go. Then it's just the one that holds the shock on, or connects to the shock, and there we have it, a shock link out the bike. One dog bone link shock link, whatever you want to call it, and this is straight out the bike. So if I push this one out, so also this should be a precision ground finish, and this one's not anymore. You can actually see where the bearings have sat against it, each one of the rollers, and actually marked the material up. And so that, even though you can't feel much wrong with it, that needs replacing. The one at the other end, if I whip that out, give it a bit of a clean, there's a little bit of marking on it, but actually that one's in much better condition. And of course that one sits, that's the end that was sitting towards the engine. So that has less of the dirt from the back wheel getting thrown at it. I mean, we're going to change it anyway, but that one's in less terrible condition. Yeah. But of course we're not just changing those bits, we're going to change the caged bearings that are in here as well, because the play will probably actually come more from the little bearings in the ends than they do from these bits. But that's not the really fun bit. The really fun bit will be this one here, that actually you can see how much play there is in that one there, because that's in the back of the swinging arm, so all the dirt, and probably even worse, the moisture hits the swinging arm, runs down and basically ends up sat in that bearing. So that one is completely foobarred. And of course that one, because we can't just put it on the bench, is also going to be the most awkward one to change. Brilliant! The good news is we don't need any really fancy tools to do this job. I think it's better to actually leave the centre bearing in the rollers when you're pushing them out, because that way the bearing won't be as inclined to sort of collapse in on itself and just turn to mush. And then you can get special tools for pushing the sockets, the bearings out, but if I have a socket that fits the outside diameter quite nicely that side, and a socket that's sort of big enough to sit over all the bearing on that side, like such, I can put that in a vise, and I squeeze the vise, it'll push the bearing out of here into there. Or at least that's the plan, so let's go and see if we can make that plan a reality. So set up in the vise. As it squeezes, hopefully it'll force that socket to push the bearings out into that socket. At least that's the plan. Obviously it would be lovely, or in fact I can feel that moving already, it would be lovely to do this using a hydraulic press. But I don't have a hydraulic press, so I'm using good old-fashioned Dave power. Having got the old bearing out, we've got a little bit of a clean up around here, but now we need to get the new bearing in. So we've got the new inner sleeve, the new inner roller, and then the actual new bearing. So we need to get that in there. And it's very tempting at this point to just put that straight in the vise and give it a squeeze, and it might go. But if I don't have that in, it's distinctly possible I'm just going to crush this quite delicate outer of the bearing, and then everything's going to go wrong. So I do want this in the middle, because that way the bearing can't squeeze down. What I am going to do though is have that bearing sticking out slightly, a actually slightly different socket that fits better over that bearing down there, and then I'm going to set it back up in the vise and do the same as I did before. Now what I could do is warm this up, because if this is warm and the bearing is cold, so if I put that in the freezer and gave that a heat up with a blowtorch or a heat gun or something, the clearance would change enough that it might slip in a little bit easier. But to be honest, the old one came out relatively easy, so I don't think it's going to be a big problem. The bearing in the hole is of course an interference fit, which means the outside diameter of the bearing is ever so slightly bigger than the inside diameter of this, and that means that it's a very tight fit. There's a slight interference between the two, and that means the bearing doesn't move inside the hole, because if the bearing could move inside the hole, it would very quickly wear this away. And so that's why it's quite a snug fit, and that's why a bit of temperature sometimes can actually help get everything back together. And here we go, with everything just set up. It's not taking much effort to just slide the new bearing into the linkage there. Look at that, just slipping straight in. Beautiful. Now I've got the roller bearings in and relatively nicely spaced. What I could do is just slot the bearings in and put everything back together. But of course then the next time there was any damp anywhere near it, things would go terribly wrong and it would all be a rusty mess again. So we need some grease. And I've got some Motul Tech Grease 300. There are, of course, cheaper greases out there, but, you know, a good quality grease is more temperature tolerant, it's better at expelling water, and it lasts longer because it's got synthetic bases in it. And so a smear of really good quality grease will extend the life of our bearing. And with a healthy smear of grease and my new bearings in, that is one done. Unfortunately, that's one of the easy ones. And the one in the swinging arm, I suspect, is going to be considerably more awkward. So now the really awkward one, in the swinging arm. First thing I'm going to do is get my screwdriver in there and just flick the dust seal out. Put that out of the way. And if I'm honest, the really nice way to do this would of course be to take the swinging arm out and do it on the bench. On some bikes, taking the swinging arm out is a really quick job. On a V4 Aprilia it isn't, because the exhaust pipes run through the swinging arm and they are notoriously awkward to get out. The shock at this stage will be pretty simple because it's just a top shock mount bolt, but I'd also have to take the front sprocket cover off, unhook the chain from the sprocket and get the rear brake hoses and wheel speed sensors and all that sort of stuff out. And so I'm going to go a little bit old school on this. And that means I'm going to break out my favourite tool. This is my favourite tool. I really ought to buy a new version of it. This is a Thor 2-pound copper and hide hammer. So if you want to hit something quite hard but with a slightly delicate touch, this is the hammer of choice. And because I'm going to have to hit one of my own sockets, this is definitely my hammer of choice today. Right, where are we? With the socket now sort of in place, what I am actually going to do is get a drift so I can hit that from further out and make life a little bit easier. I mean, I could use an extension bar, but if I use my drift, I'm not hitting another one of my tools. Because I'm filming this in the depths of winter in England, it is quite cold, and that's why I am wearing my Obsession Engineering woolly hat. It is very warm and very cosy, and of course makes me look smart. So if you'd like a lovely woolly hat as well, they are available on the website at obsessionengineering.co.uk, along with some of our other wonderful merchandise. So if you like the channel, I would love it if you liked the video. If you subscribe to the channel, that would be great. And if you buy merch, that's even better. Thanks for supporting the channel. Well, if I thought the bearings in the dog bone were bad, the bearing in the swinging arm is considerably worse. There's actual grooves. I can actually feel where it's worn the actual bearing, the shaft, away inside the rollers. And if we look inside the rollers, I'm not sure if you can get enough light in there to really see it. In fact, I can push them out. The actual rollers are coming out. That, as politely as we put it, is finished. So it is definitely a good job we're putting a new one in there. So now the bit where I do need to be relatively delicate. The bearing, because it obviously has a slight sort of taper, a slight curve on the start of the bearing, I've just sort of literally pushed it in a tiny little bit. What I need to do now is get the same socket I used earlier on the linkage bearing, slide that over the inner shaft, and very gently, I mean, I will admit I did spray a little lube in the hole so it would go in a little bit easier. If all else fails, I shall buy it dinner and see if that helps. So although it may not look like it because I've smeared grease everywhere, that is actually a fresh and clean new bearing. And this also has fresh and clean new bearings in it, so all we need to do now is put all these bits back together. Because everything is now back in and everything is tight, it is the moment of truth. And I really hope this has got rid of the clonking, because if it hasn't, then it's something a bit more important But let's see. Oh, look at that! No clonking at all. That is perfect. And if I'm honest, gives a very good sense of satisfaction at the end of a day that we've actually fixed something. A bit of a wipe round inside the swinging arm. I'm not going to pretend it's brand new, but it is considerably better, giving the caliper a bit of a clean. So the next thing to do is pop the wheel back in. So the first thing to do before we lift the wheel is make sure we've got a bit of lube on the shaft. We want our spindle to slip into the hole nice and easily. What I've done is when I cleaned the caliper, I separated the pads a little bit so we've got room to get the disc in, and I've hooked the chain on the outside of the swinging arm, and then I'm going to have to go in at an angle to get the wheel rim past the brake caliper. I like to get my foot underneath so that when we lift up, I can stick my foot under the wheel and support everything a bit. The caliper is trying to fall out of place. This is normal, which is why on a race bike we captive the caliper hanger. And of course, because it's a road bike, there's a chain guard in the way to make things even more awkward. So we need to push the wheel far enough forward that we can get the chain on. Forgetting, of course, that this bike has a lower chain guard as well, like a race bike, but standard fitment from the factory. Alright, chain is on, and this is why I use my foot underneath the wheel, because otherwise you need 3 hands, and I don't have 3 hands. If you have got 3 hands, then good for you. If you're only working on one bike, or bikes that tend to have the wheel at the same height, you could have a block of wood that wedges under the wheel. But I find that we do that many different bikes with that many different stands that they all sit at a slightly different height, so that tends to not work as well. And now all I need to do is put the big nut on, tighten it up, and I like to tighten the wheel up with it sort of pushed forward against the adjusters to keep the chain tension similar to before. And then all I need to do is pump the brake up and we're job sorted. So that is job done on my Tuono. And I have to admit, I quite like the end of a day having an hour or two just with one job in front of me, hands on, and that way I feel like I'm doing something physical, I'm sort of making something. And I think that's a great way to finish the day, to wash that stress away and just focus on one thing. And I've ticked a little job off the list on my Aprilia as well. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. And please join me again soon for some more motorbike fun.